Excelente, etc.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and today I'm joined by my bi-weekly co-host, as well as writer of the song Crazy Bitch by Buckcherry, Steven. How's it going, man?
I did not write that song. I'm just a boy.
I'm gonna just start throwing out random fake facts every time I introduce you from now on, but hell yeah. And of course, that's a hint at we're back at it with the franchise of Phantasm, back at it with the white vans, but we're talking about Phantasm III, Lord of the Dead. I'm fucking so stoked to talk about this one. Before we do that, though, of course, we like to talk about music we've been listening to and other stuff, as far, horror movies we've been watching and whatnot. Have you been watching or listening to anything? And of course, we have two events coming up towards the end of the year that we're going to go ahead and start like slowly promoting, throwing out some small information. And then, as it gets closer, we'll give you more and more. And then we'll also put the links in the description for the websites. I'm going to talk about, Tidewater HorrorCon, if you want to let the people know about, the film festival.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, towards the end of October, I think it's like the 24th through the 25th. Pretty sure it's just a 2-day festival this year. My buddy Matt Arts and his wife Sue, they run this local film festival, but it's like a international film festival. Like we have people come from all over the world. Like we had this group come last year that did this film group chat from the UK. And yeah, it's a great time. I mean, it's smack dab in the middle of Halloween. Last year it was at historic theater, the Pioneer Theater in Manio. This year it's at Festival Park, which is also in Manio. It's just literally across a little bridge. A little bit more intimate of a space, but I think it's going to be good for our group. And yeah, it's always a killer time. I mean, every year that I go, I kind of like, talk to new people and they're like, I had no clue that this was happening here. And they're like always just so impressed and surprised by like the, caliber of films that they get to show. And, it's a lot of it's like independent stuff too, which is cool because then you get to see like literally like local North Carolina people then on screen, in a theater and then getting to like converse with actual like indie directors that, have some serious chops already. So always a good time. I always recommend people coming down.
Hell yeah. No, I had a blast. I only got to go for one day last year. Of course, this year, I already planned to be out there all weekend, but that day that I was there, I got to watch Group Chat with you, which was awesome. A bunch of awesome shorts. And then we also got to see Shell with Kate
Mhm.
Hudson and Elizabeth Moss. So that was a blast. But no, and I'd only heard about this like post pandemic, when it had shut down for a few years. And this
Yeah.
was the return of it last year. So I'm super stoked to go out there this year for the whole thing. But no, hell yeah. And what about I'll talk about Tidewater. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about Tidewater now, and then we can talk about what we've
Sure.
been watching and listening. But do the housekeeping up front, I guess, as most podcasts
Mhm.
do. But and I do want to shout out, make sure you check out Matt and Sue's, his wife's name's Sue, right?
Yep.
Make sure you check out Matt and Sue's channel, Halloween Daily News on YouTube. They do a bunch of awesome interviews. They
Mhm.
with a ton of awesome people, and especially the Halloween franchise is a big focus for them as well. But they do everything, and they even like unbox animatronics and Halloween. They just have a awesome YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. And they have coverage of last year's film festival, so you can kind of check it out and see what
Yeah, totally.
you missed and what you can look forward to this year. So, but then we'll also be at Tidewater Horror Convention, September 11th, 12th, and 13th. That'll be in Virginia Beach as well. And we'll be hosting panels all weekend. There's going to be a ton of awesome guests. There's a couple of people from Goosebumps that's going to be out there. Nancy Loomis is going to be there from the Halloween
Uh,
franchise. So there's a ton
yep.
of awesome guests. You got Michael Berryman, CJ Graham from Friday the 13th. So the lineup is insane. And like I said, we'll put the links in the description for both the Halloween International Film Festival and the Tidewater Horror Convention. So you can go check
Mhm.
out all of the details about, where exactly it is, look at tickets. And I think tickets are available for both of them already, if I'm not mistaken, or has he not dropped tickets for?
No, he hasn't dropped tickets for the film festival yet. He's accepting for all you directors out there. He is accepting like film submissions right now. I think they just finished like their early submission, window. But yeah, they'll be taking movies like through July, leading up to the film festival. So yeah, submit your short films and yeah.
Oh yeah. Is the features open for submissions?
Everything's open.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as submitting, so it's just a matter of what he gets,
Yeah.
and then they do some judging beforehand, so everything does get selected. So it's not just, you know, just because you submit doesn't mean you get in. It is going to get reviewed and stuff, which makes it, a good film festival because, so
Yeah, if everything got in, you'd have it's just like streaming, like you have this
yeah.
you have to sift through the shit to get to the gold. So,
Yeah.
um,
But just because your film is amateur doesn't mean it's bad.
no, I just
Just
recently had a indie filmmaker on, and that was literally what I told him is whenever I think about watch a film, I can't ever say anything too negative about it because in my mind they
totally.
made a film and I haven't. So,
Yep, exactly.
but hell yeah, what else have you been listening to? Well, not what else because all we talked about was the stuff we got coming up. But what have you been listening to or watching lately?
As far as new stuff, been listening to the new Poison Ruin album, which is pretty good. I don't know if you've listened to like any of their stuff in the past. Their new album, I'm pretty stoked because it's like as far as like recording quality and everything, I feel like it's a notch, above than what they've had in the past. Not that anything was bad in the past, but it's funny if you listen to their music and then you listen to like another song, like the volume jump between how it's mastered is just like, oh yeah, okay, this is a little more lo-fi.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's been fun. I mean, they've got like this cool, like old school punk vibe, very heavy, like that like fantasy medieval, trend that's kind of going around. But I like it. You would never know that these guys are, you would think they're from like the UK, but they're from Philly,
yeah.
which is kind of funny. But it's good. I'm enjoying it. And then as far as like movies go, recently I finally got to watch Crime 101 and I was
Oh
texting
yeah,
you about that. I had a blast with that. I'm a big fan of like any kind of like crime noir kind of, heisty type stuff. And this movie got compared a lot to the film Heat. Um, I and kind of like because it got compared to that, it received like over criticism, I think, about the movie. Because in my opinion, I'm like, yeah, well, it's not Heat. Nothing can,
yeah.
touch that. But I can see the similarities, and I liked it for what it was. And Halle Berry, I don't know if she ages at all, because she looks extremely young in this movie. And then you got your boy Hemsworth who plays like pretty good thief, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah, I just was surprised by it. It was enjoyable, and it's kind of long, and it went by really really quick for me. So that's usually a good caliber of a entertaining flick. So definitely check that out. It's not horror related, but it's good. It's got some good atmosphere and crime dread to it. So
Yeah. Hell yeah. No, that's when I hadn't even like I saw the thumbnail scrolling and just thought it was a
Mhm.
documentary. So when you texted me that day, I was like, "Oh, what is it?" So no, I'm it's on the watch list for sure. I've only watched one film since we last chatted, and I had plans to watch Saturnalia last night, which is
Mm,
for anybody that doesn't know, it's a film shot pretty close by in Richmond, Virginia. And I don't know if it's a giallo necessarily, but I definitely know it's a nod to giallo films and like
mm.
Suspiria especially and stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
of course the one of the coolest things is that Claudio Simonetti did the score for it. But my plan was to watch that last night, and I've even bought it on Amazon Prime, but I didn't watch it because my plan was I had a doctor's appointment this morning, peek behind the curtain for anybody listening. And I figured we would record in the evening like we usually do.
Mm,
But when you offered the earlier in the day recording, I prefer to record earlier. So I had to pivot and I watched Phantasm 3 last night because my plan was to watch it
mm.
after my appointment today, just so it was
Sure.
super fresh in my mind. But so I haven't watched Saturnalia yet, but I'll have an opinion actually on that next time we come around. But I did want to talk about it just because
Yeah.
if you're out there and you love Italian horror films, especially Argento stuff, and you hear about this, you might be like, oh, and want to check it out. So right now it's on Prime, and I think it's only on Prime right now. But I believe by the time this episode drops, because this episode won't drop for like another week and a half.
Hmm.
it should be on like all the VOD stuff. You still have to pay to rent it, I believe, for a little bit. I don't know if it's hitting anything specifically. I think they might have said Screenbox or something. Don't quote me
Mm,
on that,
sure.
but I can't say it's worth buying. But I mean, I went ahead and bought it because it was only $10, and it's like $5 to rent. So I mean, you can rent it and you don't have to buy it. But you should always support any indie films, especially ones that take swings and pay homages to the OGs in good
Yeah.
ways and stuff. So, and give jobs to fucking Claudio Simonetti other than touring. That's pretty awesome that he's doing a film. But
Yeah, he's like, "What? I don't have to do this tour of the soundtrack for this film or that film." He's like, "I can actually do it for a new film."
watch one day we're gonna be listening back, and he's gonna be like, "Well, I was set up to do a tour for the anniversary of Phenomena, but then I got this little small movie in Richmond." And you're gonna be like, so, "Fuck that movie!" And you're
Damn
like,
it.
I would have preferred no, but no. So shout out that movie, Saturnalia. There is one on Tubi called Saturnalia as well. It came out in 2022. Kind of sounds interesting. Something to do with the devil and shit, and like the
Hmm.
thumbnail is bloody, but that is not the same film, just for anybody wondering, because I thought that the film dropped on Tubi a certain day, the day that it dropped on Prime, I think. And so I went and looked and saw that, and I like compared the I saw 2022, and I was like, there's no way that this was like been sitting on the shelf for 4 years. And so, without us hearing about it being so close by and whatnot, and with Claudio Simonetti always touring and whatnot,
Hmm.
uh but looking at the two synopsises, they're completely different films. So don't get confused if you go on
Hmm.
Tubi thinking that you're watching the film I'm mentioning. So the only other thing that I actually saw though was Primate, and holy shit, that was a blast, dude. I loved
Oh,
Primate.
I still need to see that. Yes.
Yeah, it was exactly what I wanted, and I gotta say the dude in the suit playing the monkey is like exactly how they should do these types of films. Like, CGI can ruin it, and so can like
Hmm.
going full animatronic and shit sometimes. And this was just like a perfect example of what they should do and how to film it too. Like he wasn't always like directly in frame, and he was done very well. So I won't say too much more just because you haven't seen it, but Primate's a
Hmm.
fun ass one. And I was actually thinking about it because like in not only April and May being full of like awesome releases, uh but also all the stuff that has just hit streaming that we're going to be catching up on over the next few weeks. That maybe
Yep.
once we finish up Phantasm, since we still have 4 and 5 to do, it'll be like a whole nother month before we even do this episode. Maybe we do a like halfway through the year recap and just
Yeah.
actually like spend a little bit more time chatting about each of the films that we really enjoyed and stuff like that, and maybe some more of the stuff, because we go by pretty quick when we chat about them like this, but we can give
Hmm.
like small, actually like quick rating reviews, like spoiler free, but a little bit more in depth, I guess. But
You mean we should talk about modern horror films as
well,
horror fans as they come out? But yeah.
that was also just because it's harder for our schedules to line up, especially with
Yeah,
like
totally.
us having it's more so us having kids than like the fact that we just don't have the like that is why we don't have the free time to really go see movies and hop on these like
Hmm.
late ass call like that's the thing is like I could go see a movie on a Thursday night, but then I can't record Thursday night at midnight, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
and that's like about as early as I can see most of these movies. And if we release on Friday, so by the following week, if you haven't released like the week of, then you might as well not release the week after. So, uh,
Yep.
no, so there'll be some movies in the future that we definitely make sure we cover like first thing. Like I think we did, what was it, Weapons or 20? There was one that we did like pretty quickly after it came out this past
Oh
year and
yeah.
stuff. So
Oh, I was just say I think yeah, it was weapons, right?
I think so. It was one of the two, but we can definitely find one later in the year that like lines up better for us and stuff. But no, yeah, I
Sure.
figured that way we can do like a catch up on the year. And then I did forget though, next week I do have Adam from Power Play coming on the show. Shout out to that band. They're awesome. I'm going to a show on the 25th with uh and by next week I mean the week after this episode drops, not
Hmm.
the week after we're talking, because the week after we're talking this episode will be dropping. Uh but I'm going to a show on the 25th. So by the time this episode will actually drop the day before I go to the show. It's them, this band Rust from Canada, which I really enjoy. They're actually the ones that like drew me to the show. This band
Hmm.
Chained from North Carolina, as well as this band Arrested from North Carolina, and then this band Respair. And I enjoy all of them, and they're all from like different realms of hardcore. Like Power Plays very classic hardcore, like more like
Sick.
punk influenced, and like Chained and Rust. Like Rust is kind of like Suburban Scum, Rude Awakening like era hardcore. Chained is more like modern stuff. and then both Arrested and Respair are kind of like beatdownish. One's more like a cleaner beatdown, and one's more of like a nasty beatdown. But
That's
so it's all like it all fits in the same realm of like having the same fan base, but they're all very different and unique. So highly recommend all of those bands. I've been checking out also the new album from the band Body Snatcher. It's called Hell Is Here, Hell Is Home. I love that album. And the dude fucking hates his dad, so shout out to that. He like always has like
it.
a song or two just straight shitting on his dad. Like literally in the song he goes, Happy Father's Day, Mike, fuck you. And I'm like
Oh, damn.
I feel that, dude. Like you shout out this fucking first name basis on that shit. But
Hmm.
no, but no, this was a heavy ass album. That's like my type of deathcore. It's very clean production, just very like heavy and like fun,
Hmm.
like in fun album. And the reason I wanted to talk about doing the Power Play episode is because then after that episode, we're going to do Phantasm 4 unless anything happens with scheduling. But then I already
Hmm.
recorded the following episode as well with director Daniel Torres of Here for Blood and the upcoming slasher film Fresh Meat. And he did send me a screener of Fresh Meat, and I got to watch that, and that was an absolute blast. If you like Here for
Sick.
Blood, you'll probably like Fresh Meat. It's a very it's about like uh two groups of YouTube influencers coming together to go uh explore this like abandoned prison pretty much. And
Hmm.
it's a slasher film, so it goes from there. And it's got some of the same cast from Here for Blood. It's got a lot of the fun, a lot of the great practical effects, the same practical effects team from Here for Blood. So definitely check that
Nice.
out if you check out Here for Blood if you haven't, and keep an eye out for Fresh Meat dropping in theaters on in like August, September. So, but our episode will drop. That episode will drop like May 15th, I think, like second or third Friday in May. So.
Hell yeah, dude.
But hell yeah. But we can dive into Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. This fucking film, dude. I love this film so much. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil that right now. This was so fun. But
It is a very fun movie. Yes.
what's funny is I mentioned, I wasn't really planning to watch this last night. So when I decided to watch it, I was watching like Monday Night Raw. So I had to like wait and start it at like 10:30 at night. And so
Oh,
I was
damn.
uh like the main event of Monday Night Raw started, and it was pretty much just Roman Reigns and CM Punk fucking bitching at each other. So I was like, I could skip this and start the movie. So I
Hmm.
did start it like a little earlier than like the end of Monday Night Raw, but it was still like t after 10 o'clock. And so I'll be honest, I had that thought in my mind for a second, like, man, I'm gonna force myself to watch this and not have as much fun with it. 2 seconds later, watching Liz get straight dusted, I was like, let's go, dude. And then he pulls out the quadruple barrel shotgun within like 2 seconds. I was like, he's using it more in this movie in fucking 2 minutes than he did in the whole
Oh, I know. I
part
know.
two.
It's so funny.
Now, what do you think about this intro? I mean, of course, you got a little bit of the flashback stuff, but even I feel like the way they use the flashback stuff in this is so like well done and kind of just like quick and straight to the point.
Yeah, I think, well, they definitely get way more to the point. I mean, I would hope that Coscarelli would be like, all right, look, this is the third time we've done this damn flashback. We can't have it linger. Um,
But we
and I
also got to
think,
remember back we that's one thing that we forget as modern day film watchers
oh
is
yeah,
that back then this was 1994,
94. Yep.
yeah, when this came out, which is wild that this was 2 years before Scream and like the way that like just
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
this is definitely one of those 90s films that felt like an 80s film, like Brain Scan, Demon Knight, shit like that.
Hmm.
But we forget that because like stuff wasn't so readily available, like on streaming or even like
Hmm.
VHS were like hard to find, especially
Hmm.
Phantasm 2. You can't even find that shit today, let alone I'm sure back
Yeah.
then. So no, that recap was so much more necessary, like to watch a film back then because you
Hmm.
might not have had the ability to rewatch one or two for, especially like we said, two was probably nowhere to be found. So you might have
Hmm.
had the ability to go to Blockbuster or the mom and pop shop and get Phantasm 1, but even then it's like, do you have the money for both? You know what I mean? So no,
Sure.
and the only reason I say direct to video like video stores because this was direct to video. It had like a very small like two city release in theaters and then it went straight to video, which it
Yeah.
only got shit on because it came out a week after Jurassic Park. So
Oh damn. Yeah, and it was like a six. I read it was like a 6 year gap from Phantasm 2. So,
yeah.
so I mean, doesn't surprise me that he'd throw in a little bit of a recap. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fans that like haven't seen that stuff, like that's another thing is like the Friday 13th movies, like every single one do it. And I'm like, when you're watching them back to back now, it feels like, why? I don't need this again.
Yeah,
But I could
totally.
see where like you haven't been to the theater in a year to see the last one. Like it's fun to get that little recap. So I definitely I give it a little bit more grace thinking about when it came out, but
Mhm. Also, they did a good job redoing the end her scene and then throwing Mike in there and it not feeling like too weird that they were different actors, you know? Like there's like the
Yeah.
one scene where they're running to the hearse and it's the last guy and then I don't know they did a good job to edit it to make it not feel awkward. But yeah, it is funny to just be like, "Ha, yeah, Mike's back." Well, the original actor for Mike is back. Um, but yeah, I like the intro. And I love like how comical, you brought up the double barrel shotgun. Um, I love how he's just like it's uh Looney Tunes logic, shooting just up at a tree, not even aiming at anything, and it's just like plop, 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 the little
They just flop
hooded
down.
hooded minions or whatever. I forget what they call them something in this one too. Gosh, what do they call them? Like seekers or lurkers or something like that.
Well, he says the things that come out at night. He does call them lurkers. Timmy
Yeah.
does, which we'll get there in a
Yeah, yeah,
second.
yeah.
But I don't know if he was referencing these guys or if he was
Oh yeah,
referencing the like zombie people that come around later. Because I mean, there might have been others of those that we
it's a
just
fair
hadn't seen
point.
and
Yeah.
stuff. So because they leave that town, so. But no, I agree that especially with the way that like I don't know if they had the actress. I wish I should have looked into this, but I don't know if they had the actress that played Liz either when they did that reshoot to fit A. Michael Baldwin in. They had to
Oh.
like fit him into a scene that had another actress that they kind of
Mhm.
immediately killed off with make and with so makeup effects that I don't even know if that was a real body there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so I don't know if they ever actually had that actress. So to really pull that off with adding him in without having her to play off of and stuff. I think yeah, that worked out excellent. And then
Mm.
that's another thing that makes this film so fun is that it kicks off like quick as
Yeah.
fuck and does not stop like going. It like never slows down and gets boring because you get him blowing the head off of the one minion, then he shoots the two out of the tree, which is hilarious. But then like two scenes later, pretty much after he's taking Mike and Mike's in the hospital, then you got that crazy freaking nurse showing up and shit. It's like
Hmm.
I don't know. There's just so much to like about this film. And then you get the tall man and this cool layer. I don't know. Like you don't get the layer
Yeah.
ever again. Like, but when it just shows him like sitting there looking in the sphere, I was
Oh, I
like,
want that many candles in my little design office. That'd be sick.
right, dude. That's like the post. That should have been the movie poster right there, dude. Just fucking him
Yeah.
sitting in that thing and say Lord of the Dead.
Yeah.
It was so sick.
Did you notice too when there's like a scene right there in the beginning, not the nurse that, reanimates and attacks Mike, but there's a scene where he's like under like anesthesia and they're like giving him like an oxygen mask. I'm pretty sure that's the lady from the first Phantasm, the cemetery lady that the tall man. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't even pay that much attention.
I'm almost like 100% certain that it was. It's like it's really quick and she's like leaning over him. It's that scene where he's like in the hospital bed and they're talking about him and I think Reggie's doing like a voice like recap or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, "Oh, that's the hanky panky lady from the cemetery." But yeah, so
No, I think that was when I was fighting to put the subtitles on because it was like the talking would be kind of quiet, but then the booms would be
Mhm.
loud, and I was like, I can't have it crazy loud, with like my wife sleeping and stuff. So, I was like trying to put the subtitles on, and I hadn't done it on a PlayStation 5 yet, so I was like looking through,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, I have to actually do it on the DVD menu, not the fucking like PlayStation menu. But no,
Sure.
I love that whole intro thing. And then the thing with that's the thing is we immediately get new lore. Like she pulls out that fucking weapon that we find out later he uses to like, de-brain people.
Mhm.
And then once she gets defeated, which is one of the funniest scenes when Reggie gets all that fucking shit, mustard shit in his mouth
Oh
pretty much.
yeah.
But shout out to the guy that commented and said that when we did Phantasm 1, he said after watching that film he couldn't eat mustard for like a good year as a kid. But
That's
uh
awesome.
and but you get that, squirting everywhere, which is another thing I love is they didn't change that shit. That no, at no
Yeah.
point where they're like, "Oh, that's goofy. Let's stop doing the yellow blood." Like, no, they let it fly in this one. And then
Mhm.
like the ball coming out of her head is like another thing. You're like, "What the she was she being completely controlled?" But now the way that the lore grows in this one works so well for me. And like today, because I knew we were doing the episode, of course, I had the hour to an hour back drive, 2 hours on the road this morning just to think about this film that I was kind of just, racking my brain. And it really made me think about how a lot of this stuff works so well in this film because the passing of time is an excuse for almost everything. You know what I mean? Like, why does this
Sure.
happen? Because, it's been this long, or like because this part just developed, for instance, like, we haven't really gotten there yet, but just to mention real quick, Jody shows back up in this one, of course, and
Hmm.
we find out that he is kind of like we find out that the tall man takes the brains because we knew since the first film that he takes these people and sends them to be like shrinks them down to be minions, but
Hmm.
it's not until this film that we find out that he's separating the brains and putting them into spheres. So the
Hmm.
spheres are brains and the bodies are the slaves. So, but he still controls the brains within the spheres. So it's one of those things where it's like he's taking the brain of Jody, but it's still being controlled by the tall man. So there was
It's complicated.
it is, but it is, but it's also like not, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of
No,
like
I
one
know
of
what
those
you mean.
things like if you listen to somebody play D&D, it sounds fucking hard. But if you
It
know how
is
to play
hard. I play D&D and I still am getting made fun of every week because I don't know the rules. And I've been doing this for like 6 months.
Well, I mean, but that's what I was about to say is like when you first start playing, for instance, like it's like when you listen into it,
Hmm.
you feel so lost. But somebody
Sure.
that's 5 years in, they like know every little thing that you're saying. Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
not just like somebody knowing Klingon, like I'm not even trying to be funny, but like so to me, like that's what kind of sense I mean it makes. Like if you know it, then all the weird wording doesn't sound weird. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like,
sure, sure. No,
but
I got you.
uh but that's one thing I love about it is like there's people that are like, well, if that was the case, why didn't Jody, help in the second film? And I'm like, maybe because he wasn't strong enough to come through yet. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's the thing is the passing of time like can kind of explain a lot of things in like this whole film. Like why did he start doing this? Why does he do that? It's like for
Sure.
instance, like I've heard I was listening to a podcast talk about this and they brought up the fact of how in the first film Mike is just like kind of the goal because he sees what the tall man's doing and the tall man kind of just needs to tie up that loose end.
Yes.
And like in this one, he almost becomes like he needs him for like a bigger purpose. And my thing is like I think that kind of grows with the story of the film. Like, okay, in that
Hmm.
first film, he realizes, oh, this kid knows what's up. I got to get rid of him. But then by the end of the film, he's like, oh fuck, this kid's a formidable opponent. There's something special there. And then by the second film, he's realized this kid is truly special. He's got like the shine to him. Now I need him for my collection. And so that
Hmm.
grows into the story that it is in three. It's not like a forced thing. And I think that's one thing that benefits from Don Coscarelli doing all the films compared to like a Nightmare on Elm Street, a Halloween, or
Hmm.
even Friday 13th is all those are different directors, you know what I mean? Maybe one or two share like one director, but uh it's awesome to have like a franchise like this or even like same thing that like Evil Dead, benefits from having Sam Raimi for
Sure.
those films and stuff. So, having this Don Coscarelli that cares about these characters and the lore of the story, like so he grows it in such a smart way and he brings on fans of the franchise to help with the stuff, the Phantasm PH fans.
Hmm.
So no, it's just awesome. But
Oh
well,
yeah.
what's next in the story? Is that when we get to pretty much Timmy? But
Um,
well, no, because
no, no, we got a well,
the tall man's got to take Mike
so
first.
so he recaps the escaping the mausoleum and cemetery, and then Mike gets captured.
Yeah,
So they're like holding up in and that's when we first get introduced to we get a introduction to not Rudy. Freaking why can't I think of his name in this?
Reggie.
Uh, Not Reggie, Jody. I don't know why I want to call him Rudy. So we get reintroduced to Jody, um, because they're holding up at their their bunker or wherever they're tied up and then the spear shows up and they're like, oh shit, and then it's Jody and they're like, wait, what,
Yeah,
so there's that like kind of like, wait, Jody, are you a spear, are you a vision, is it just Mike that's like communicating with him but Reggie can see him, so it's
yeah. Or is
it
it
is like
Salt?
an
Is it?
interesting weird thing. Also in this one, I will say, not to like jump around, I feel like in this third one, maybe just because it happens in the second film, they don't really talk about Mike having like telekinetic powers as much. I mean, we
Yeah.
know he does because of the storyline, but it's not really mentioned much, even to like the newer characters. Like, oh, don't worry about him. He can talk to people or
Yeah.
whatever. I just thought that was like an interesting take for this one. Um, but yeah, so yeah, then yeah, tall man comes and Jody tries to like hold him off, and then he burns up his silver ball and then Mike gets captured and I love that immediately Reggie as he like gets knocked out and comes to and he's like, "Oh man, Mike's gone." And then immediately goes to where like the tall man like took him through a different portal and his rug is all scorched up and he's like, "Oh man, they fucked up my rug."
Yeah.
It's so funny that that's like not anything too bad about, Mike being gone, but damn, they really torched my rug in this abandoned shithole that we probably broke into and is not actually his. Anyways,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I love that little setup. It's fun. So yeah, so then he hits the road. Um and I guess he starts, yeah, going what, like town to town at this point, because he's like starting to do like, more town reconnaissance.
Well,
So he,
now he's looking for Mike pretty much, you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
at first they were looking for the tall man, and now at this point he's got to like speed up his search because he's got Mike as well. But I do want to mention that with Jody, the one thing I like about the introduction to Jody is because of the past films and the shape shifting. Most of the time he selects women for whatever reason, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the fact that he can shapeshift, I like the fact that it kind of makes you always wonder, or like a little bit peculiar about Jody as a character. Like, is he even being honest? Is it even Jody and
Yeah.
stuff like that? So, I liked the way that they played on him, like, and kind of kept him a little bit mysterious. Which I mean, it obviously ends up being Jody or whatever, but
It
um,
has that cool 90s kids will understand this reference, but has that cool like Capri Sun like
yeah,
into a freaking metallic silver ball. It's
the
pretty dope.
TLC waterfalls video, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
No, hell yeah.
Uh,
No, and then
uh,
I have.
uh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say another thing. So yeah, so I think you were about to say like Reggie starts traveling, and he keeps going to these towns where I'd noticed it was like population of this, and which made me think like, oh, that's not a thing so much anymore. But then the question for you: are we to assume that every town is being decimated, or is it only small towns because Tall Man is still like trying to like fly under the radar by only targeting small towns? Like, are cities being, harvested and stuff like that? Because I know this is like a basically a post-apocalyptic, sci-fi horror thriller at this point within the franchise. What are your thoughts there?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that like this takes place in Oregon, which I mean practically
Mhm.
is a giant small town in my opinion. I mean, I don't know
Sure.
much about Oregon. I know they do have some cities obviously, but like you notice it hasn't been in Portland or nothing. Like it's like Paragon and Morningside was the first
Mhm.
mortuary, but I don't know if it was what the city was in the first film. But yeah, and then this one he goes to like another like kind of unheard of town. So that's the only thing I can think is that especially being back in the 80s and 90s, it's a little easier for him to wipe out of town and not really necessarily travel quite as fast. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? The only thing is the only problem is that part three does take place immediately after part two, so all that makes a little bit more sense. But the fact that he might have been doing this for 6 years between part one and part two, because they do like a 6 years later on that's the only
Mhm.
part that I'm like, if he's doing it for 6 years, he's either gonna at that point either have all of Oregon wiped out or somebody's gonna start figuring something the fuck out. So, but that also
Yeah.
might just be part of the magic of the tall man is being able to like
Sure.
make people like kind of forget. You know what I mean? Almost like in those like whenever it's almost like I can't think of an actual movie that does it. It's more of a trope in like every like kids television show when they do that horror episode or like Are You Afraid of the
Mm,
Dark has done an episode. Goosebumps has done an episode. It's all that episode where it's uh like somebody forgets everything or like everybody forgets something, you know what I mean? Like,
sure, sure,
oh,
sure.
there's this old place out there, but nobody knows what it is, or like nobody even knows
Mhm.
that it's there until it like something happens with it. So that's the only thing I can think is that the magic of the tall man
Mhm.
is kind of makes like the memories just go away type shit. But
Sure. Well, and less cool potential explanation would just be the fact that like, because I know I could clearly this film has less of a budget as the second one. We don't have two house explosions. Um,
That hearse flip though.
yeah, there's always got to be some kind of car flip followed by a car explosion. Um, but clearly there's some budget constraints in this one, and probably it's just easier to film in like the middle of nowhere towns and stuff like that versus like having to get permits to film in an actual like metropolis or something like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the pure reason that they're like, we're sticking to small towns that you've never heard of, because it's easier to film it this way. So, but
Wayne goes
what?
back to Coscarelli and his love for the franchise. It might have just grown out of, they did the first one in a small town in Oregon because of that's where he was. I don't know for exactly, but I'd assume that's where he was like born and raised type
Mm,
shit. Especially with his, I don't know why I keep saying type shit like I'm a fucking teenager, but he keeps
mm-mm.
born and raised type thing, like especially with his mom and dad being such big hands on with like his dad
Mm,
producing, his mom like even wrote the novelization of Phantasm like when it came out and stuff. And
yeah.
like so they've all like they've always helped and been like a part of the franchise with them. So I assume that it might be a thing there where it's like, like you said, if he spread to the big cities too quick, then it's kind of
Mhm.
like how far can he go to where if you just keep him in the small realm and have him slowly grow, then he kind of can stay under the radar a little longer. So no, I think that's definitely probably what it is just, going through the very small towns. Because let's be honest, like if he went through Shiloh, North Carolina,
Mhm.
it'd take a couple weeks before we figured things out. Like when
Yeah.
people didn't show up to work is when we'd be like, what's going on in Shiloh? But
Yeah.
uh,
Also, I think there's a little bit of a trope that Coscarelli loves with Reggie being this like you know unassuming like badass. He's like, I'm just going small town, like I'm on under the cusp of like knowing what's going on that's like unfolding. So like I think there's like a little bit of that like traveler hero ego, to being like on the in the know.
yeah.
So but
None alongside the like balls to the wall practical effects in this film, one of my other favorite aspects of it is the fucking characters. Every single character in
oh
this film
yeah.
is awesome, and we get introduced to some of them in that scene where he's going town to town. He runs across, of course, another woman that he hits on immediately, and
Immediately.
yeah, and
Hey, lady, you can't be purposely. You couldn't know nothing about working on cars. He's just staring at her ass.
yeah, and these two guys randomly show up looking like 1970s New York pimps and shit, and like,
Total
uh,
sleazeballs. They're amazing.
yeah. Now, in the way that they like uh that's one thing I like about this film too is like when you're watching it for the first time, obviously I knew, that the characters coming up. But like when you're watching this for the first time, when Reggie gets into trouble, you're kind of like, how is he gonna get out of this? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, is the tall man gonna accidentally help him, you know what I mean, or something? Because at this point Mike's gone, you know what I mean? Like you kind of is Jody gonna help him, you know what I mean? Or is
mm.
that's kind of what I was starting to think the first time I saw this is like, oh, this is where Jody reunites and just becomes like another person, a sentient person again, you know what I mean? And just kind of tag teams for the rest of the movie. So
Yeah.
when they show up at this house with clowns everywhere, I was like, what the fuck is happening, dude? Like, because this isn't some tall man shit unless he's really just got a fetish over like unless he saw it, the It miniseries in 1990 when that dropped and just something
Yeah.
flipped in his fetish from bald heads to clowns. Like he was like, oh, dude, I gotta. So what was your first thoughts when they like show up at this house and it's randomly just filled with clowns and has like this spooky voice and shit? And
Yeah. I mean, uh, I think it's a great red herring for this movie, to think like, oh, I mean, because we've had some great sets throughout the franchise, like we had the whole fucking Hellraiser mausoleum that they go into in the second one, where they have like the very Freddy monster, in the boiler room of all places.
yeah,
But yeah, we show up to this house. It does feel very Stephen King, this house with like stuff like it feels Pet Cemetery or something, you
yeah,
know. Um, and it's just creepy. And then yeah, I mean, you just have like obviously these mobsters that are, on the road and taking advantage of, everybody because all these towns are depleted. Um, I like the setup because they have this like cocky nature to them. And you're like, oh, you're about to get messed up, but like you don't think it's going to be what it actually is, which is the best payoff to it. And that's how we get introduced to little Timmy.
Yeah, I've never been so proud to share a name with an on-screen character in my life, dude. Fucking, I was
Yeah.
like, this kid rules. The fact that not only does he, that's the thing is like when he first shows up, you're like, oh, dude, a kid like okay, okay, cool. They're kind of gonna pay homage to Mike, and then he obviously went up Mike in 30 seconds by straight axing
Yes.
that girl right in the forehead, dude.
Well, you
Tomahawks
don't
her.
you don't expect it because yeah, obviously like the house is booby trapped. You're like, okay, this is so Home Alone right now.
Yeah,
You even have the like the banister trap. It's clown with a bunch of knives and the guy kind of. I don't know if he actually gets cut, but it's close, and so he's all
yeah, he
pissed off.
dodges that. Yeah,
And then the kid gets caught pretty quickly, and so you're like, yeah, okay, like what is this little twerp gonna do against three grown adults with guns? And then immediately hatchets
yeah,
the oldest dude in the kneecap, and you're like, dang, all right, good for him. And then chucks it, and I'm just assuming it's gonna miss everybody, and then just right to the noggin of the chick.
yeah. You think it's gonna be one of those that they like duck from it and then turn around, where'd he go? And then he's gone.
Yeah, super
It,
Dennis the Menace, like, you pesky kid, get back here.
yeah, he dust all fucking three of them, dude. First she gets a tomahawk, and
Yeah,
then we get like literally like I know that like we compare him to Kevin McAllister, but Kevin McAllister
sure.
would not want to meet this kid in an alley, in my
Soft.
opinion,
Kevin
dude.
is soft.
Yeah.
He's afraid of a spider.
And I knew that as soon as this kid pulled out a frisbee with razor blades just all around the motherfucker.
Also, yeah, shout out to that scene because that is from like you've probably seen the clip. It's gosh, it's like a old like B action flick, another sleazy film, like something it's like what the hell is it called? But the guy does the frisbee toss and like hits a guy in the throat with it. It's like something like Hard Ticket to Hawaii or something. One of
Yeah.
those films. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I don't know the name of it, but I've definitely seen like the clip come up in my like reels and stuff like that. And
Oh yeah.
no, and that's one thing about Don Coscarelli is I feel like he pays his homage in a way that like
Mm.
kind of like Tarantino does. Not to give him the credit of Tarantino, he's obviously not on that level of filmmaking to be honest. But as I wear my Death Proof hat, shout out. But he does like pay homage in a way that doesn't feel like a ripoff. He pays it just like for instance like when these characters come back around, which we'll get to in a little bit. Uh, it feels very Deadite-ish, and very Sam Raimi-ish,
Yes.
which he gave a lot of nods to in the last film, even with the Sam Raimi on the bag and of ashes and shit, and then
Dude, I crushed it. Sorry to cut you
Hard
off. It
Ticket to
is
Hawaii.
Hard Ticket Hawaii.
Hell
Pulled that
yeah,
out of my brain space. I've tried watching some of those films.
same. They're not
They're
as fun
not
as
very good.
yeah. Those scenes are the only thing that people
Yeah.
pull from them for a reason. This is
I
not a
think
compilation of cool scenes. It's like
I think that's the
one.
same movie where the snake comes out of the toilet and is fighting the chick, and then they shoot it with like a bazooka or some shit. Maybe
I don't
that's
know if I've seen that, but.
yeah. Anyways,
But and then of course the final guy comes out and like it's stuck in a trap and like off screen he puts one in his fucking head like straight just like welcome.
but then my favorite part about why this kid is so hard and is so good at this, he's a sheriff's son. He's a cop kid, so he knows how to kill.
Yeah, it doesn't come up immediately, but we can go ahead and talk about his backstory also because that to me is the scariest scene in the fucking film when his
Oh, okay.
because you see that his dad gets killed or whatever, and you don't see how his dad gets killed. You just see his dad in the grave, and he obviously looks a
Yeah.
little off, like most of the people do
Mhm.
that are like tall man taken already. And so then him and his mom, he like refuses to leave the grave, and his
Mhm.
mom comes up and finally gets him to leave. And as they're leaving, and she sees the tall man like putting the grave back in the hearse, and so she goes and runs up after it and gets pulled into
Oh yeah.
the hearse as well. And then so when he goes running up and jumps into the hearse and rides with them, then all of a sudden the casket opens up and the dad is in there looking fucking scary as hell, just holding the mom and grinning. And I
Oh
was
yeah, he's
like,
like bites her, so he's like, ah, yeah, she's clearly dead.
yeah, I think he does bite her and like kill her or something. Uh, and that's he pretty much watches his zombie dad kill his mom. I was like, and the look on the dad's face, I was like, if I saw this as a child, like I was loving it as an adult, obviously. I was like, this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rules. I was like, if I saw this as a child, my mom would have had to scoot over for a couple nights in bed, if you know what I'm saying. Like I would have not been able to sleep in my own bed for like a week if I would have saw that
Totally.
shit. Because
Also, I love that. I love the amount of window jumping in
oh
this franchise. People just like throwing their bodies through full plates of glass. And Timmy, how old do you think Timmy is? Does he say how old he is in the movie?
I want to say
Dude,
12 or 13, but
yeah, he's got to be like 12. Homie just straight up jumps through a tiny ass rear window of the
you
hearse.
know,
He's like, I'm getting out of here.
no, and it full shatters. It doesn't even, and the way it shatters does not feel like a breakaway window. It's almost like feels like a
No.
fucking, it's like thick, but it's like
And
stone
hits,
cold.
yeah, just nice tuck and roll when he hits the concrete in a hearse that's probably driving 50 miles an hour.
Hey,
And it's just, whew.
like he says to Reggie, I'm not a kid anymore, Rich. I'm
Yes.
like, dude, you're not, dude. You're fucking badass. That's
He is pretty badass.
that kid
Yep.
rules. But
He
uh,
didn't grow up with screens, Tim. He's one of
right.
those.
And
He's
then of
not
course
soft.
he tries to get rid of him, which that's the only scene I feel like in the entire movie that they could have just skipped over. He could have just accepted the kid. You know what I mean? Like, damn, you took
Oh
out all.
yeah.
He could have just been like, you took out three of them. I could use you. You know what I
Oh, I
mean?
completely forgot about how sad that scene was.
Yeah, dude. And the kid, if you didn't see the kid pop up in the trunk at the end, I would have been bummed for like a good minute until he actually popped up. You know what I mean? I was like, no way you're getting
Reggie's
rid of my
such
dude
an
Timmy.
asshole.
Fucking
He just straight up he's like, I know a place. I just want to talk for directions. Go play with those other little orphan sad kids.
yeah, Reggie is kind of worse dude material. He tries to drop him off for money and randomly at this he doesn't even know that it's an orphanage at first. He's just like, these are
No.
all your kids? Like he just saw the place with all the kids and she's just like, no dipshit, I'm taking care of all the ones from the town you just left where everybody
He's an
died.
opportunist.
Yeah. And so he like pays him off. But then also I wasn't wrong last week when I mentioned the sleeping in the car thing. We'll get to it in a little bit, but he sucks kind of. But
Reggie's a shithead.
he gets rescued constantly by these youngins and never
Mm,
really is the hero. But
no,
uh, he's only the one that's willing to put both his hands on the thing. Like somebody else couldn't do that. Like, God damn it.
I know.
That's the only thing that got me is what. But no, hell yeah. And then the next scene, that's pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, they pretty much, of course they go that, and he goes to try to drop him off, and then as he's driving away, you see that Timmy snuck into the trunk, and then if I'm not mistaken, that's when they show up at the next mausoleum, and we get introduced to
Yep.
Rocky. Yeah, and we get the first like, and I popped like my wife was still awake because she was like gonna lay down soon while I was watching this.
Mm.
That's why I was like worried about volume and stuff. But she was still awake watching it with me at this point. And when the sphere kill happens in the scene, to Rocky's friend, I immediately
Oh
was
yeah.
like, nothing beats a good old classic sphere kill, dude. Like even in this film with all the
Mm.
cool shit that's added every film, I still like the classic, just like straight to the forehead, drill right in and blood
The
go
juicer.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yep.
Like just give me
Juice-o-matic.
one of those a phantasm and I'm good.
And I feel like they did this one more justice than the one from two, where they like cut some of the like gore,
Yeah.
like you can tell they like cut the camera and you're like, come on, this one has like nice little fountain spray of blood coming out of it. Um, yeah, yeah, they get to the mausoleum. We get introduced to Rocky and her friend. Um, I guess we're supposed to believe that they're like ex-military potentially.
Yeah.
Uh, and and this is also where we find out that we got zombies. I mean, we kind of had zombie-ish creatures. We had the minions or whatever, and they were all like weird looking. But I feel like this is the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, like we haven't really had like straight up zombie type monsters, right?
No, the only thing I could think is that maybe the people in the first film, you had that one guy that took the ball to the head, and then in the second film, he had those
Mhm.
like other minions and stuff that looked kind of dead, but not like fully
Sure.
zombified. So the only thing I could think is that because these people weren't like, maybe they were a rush job, and that's why they're ugly zombies. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
uh, so I don't. That's the one thing I do like about this film is it feels like that's another thing is people were talking like I could see where people were critiquing the change and like, well, why is there like a different type of henchman in this film and why are they
Mhm.
just kind of like throwing zombies? And I feel like it's because like he's tried the dwarves, they didn't really work out. They're still helpful in certain areas in this film, but he doesn't send them after them because they haven't been able to be successful yet. Then he
Mhm.
tried his regular old henchmen, they weren't successful. So now it's like, all right, now what can I throw at him next? Let me try out these zombies, and it's so
Sure.
it makes sense for like the henchman's like points of attack to change, you know what I mean, as the films change because it's like, okay, that's not working. Let me try these guys. It just shows his strength and like
Sure.
all of these other things he has. And he's a typical supervisor, dude, always delegating the work and sitting in the back and just waiting to come out and like a fucking show up like a blister when the work's done, dude.
Classic.
But no, that and that's another thing though with this sphere kill is it's the first time that somebody that like cares for somebody watches it happen to them. Because like
That's a fair
I,
point.
I can't necessarily remember who it happens to in the second film.
It happens to the priest.
Yeah, and she doesn't know the priest from Adam other than the fucking funeral. So she doesn't
Hmm.
like it's not like she's watching like her mom or grandma get it or whatever or that sister
Hmm.
that had to dip. That would have been a cooler one if she was chasing her sister out and her sister got it right in the dome. And
I'm late.
because then at least it would have made sense for her to be there for 2 minutes. But um
Seriously.
so like this was actually cool because Rocky had to watch it, then pull out her nunchucks and fight the shit off. So we got to see some nunchuck action. But I will say I saw like a small clip on YouTube where these guys were talking about this film. I didn't even see what I think they were called like
Hmm.
retro ad or something like that. But
Hmm.
the dude was like, "Let me know if you were in the military in the '90s. Was nunchucks a thing? Because I don't know where she learned that, but."
I thought the same thing. I was just like, wait a second. She's classically trained in nunchucks
Yeah,
from her
all the
military
stuff she could have
background.
pulled. Yeah, she could have
Uh,
punched it and it would have been cool.
it just felt very 90s to have nunchucks, you know, like we got Phantasm 3, we got freaking Three Ninjas. So, you
Walker,
know,
Texas
it's
Rangers on the TV at the time, dude.
RIP.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then Timmy shows back up and shows how much of a badass he is, shooting down the ball with a
Doesn't miss
gun.
once. Hits it every
Dead
single
shot.
time,
Yeah.
dude, until it's and that thing's moving. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Mm,
he's not a child, Reg. He's like
no.
he's not a kid anymore, Reg. Fucking that kid's so badass. And then that's what I like I said, I mean, this is pretty much the end of the character introductions, but every
Yeah.
single character has been such a blast from the wonky, like fucking goofy idiot people that also remind me of the Three Ninjas with the three guys that show up at the house that try to like kidnap them
Yes.
and stuff. Like
Yes.
very fun, just doofuses that even get funner when they become zombies, you know what I mean? So, and
Hmm.
then Rocky and Timmy being introduced are just like it's one of those things that this far in a franchise you don't really expect new characters to be awesome, but this has the same effect that like a Kincaid and Dream Warriors does, you know, where it's like
Sure. I
they're
agree.
immediately like a fan favorite. So, no, I fucking love this film. But and then they talk her into coming with them, and she's like, "Imagine the three of us facing down evil," and he's like, What the fuck else you got to do?"
It is quite the spread as far as like imagining like a group of action people. You've got a balding middle-aged ice cream man. You've got this badass ex-military nunchuck chick,
Yeah,
and then a
boy.
kid, a
Yeah,
cop's
Wesley
kid.
Snipes' sister. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Oh my God. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then exactly what you said happens from the last episode where Reg just starts thinking with his pants again.
Like a fuck any such a dick too, because he goes in and the guy's like, I got which the guy's being a straight asshole for whatever reason, but
Yeah.
I felt that was a little unnecessary, but I guess with everything going on, it makes a little sense. But the guy's
Mhm.
like, we got two twin beds and a queen, and he takes the queen on purpose just to hopefully get laid, which doesn't happen. Shout out to Rocky because that's one thing I
Yeah.
like about this film is like, she's the first one in the film. I wouldn't say she's the first one in the franchise of females that's like very useful and very
Hmm.
uh like not just there to sleep with Reggie and stuff because Liz is there like she does have the shot like a little bit of the same stuff as Mike
Hmm.
and so she does have like she's very useful and stuff she's not just there to be with Mike but the fact that immediately when she gets like when her and Mike come together she's just like oh I love you and like kisses him and shit like
Yeah. Yeah.
immediately
What
take
was it? What was the name of the last chick? Frangelica or whatever her name was?
Oh, it was something kind of alchemy because they called her Kimmy.
Alchemy.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
but she was literally there just to sleep with Reggie. And like so the fact that they didn't just repeat that was awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all the females in this like every single one of the females in this one are badass from the
Hmm.
villain who's like willing
Hmm.
to like pull a knife on him to the girl that dies, she's only in it for a second, but it's because she's like
Yeah.
fucking up Reggie, that she even
Yeah.
gets killed. But no, so it was stoked to see that switch up a little bit in this one, and the females kind of take a front seat instead of, just be there for Reggie to be a horn dog. But it
Hmm.
does add for some fun humor. And there's a scene later on that we're going to get to that's a little like, okay, well, maybe.
Hmm.
Don Coscarelli was helping Reggie get his way with
Hmm.
whatever. But no, I do. But the whole scene is hilarious though when he's like trying to talk what's his name in the sleeping in the car, and she's literally like, "No, there's plenty of room. Come on in." He's
He's
just
like,
like,
"Come on, kid." I just like how the kid's like, dude, I got." He's like such a wingman.
yeah, he
At 12,
understood
he's like, "Bro, I get it." And he's like, "It's tough being the only dude out here."
Yeah, he didn't hesitate. He was like, "Oh, it's more comfortable out here than on the floor." Not that one. He wasn't like, I don't," like the dude knew what to say. He was ready.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
like,
not like what a real kid would be like. I don't understand. I don't want to be in a car.
he's not a kid anymore, man. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true. It's
But,
true. It's true.
no, but that would have been a funny twist. They woke up and he stole the car like some It's Always Sunny shit.
Mhm.
But no, and then of course you get the scene where he tries to sleep with her and she straight handcuffs his ass to the bed and goes to sleep. I was like, dude, that's what you get, because that's got to be some
Yeah.
fucking pain to wake up in the morning after having your arms like up all night or whatever.
Oh, yeah, it'd be awful.
Yeah, I could imagine that shit, dude. That's some Gerald's game shit. But no, and then of course the next scene, uh, where do they go exactly next?
That's don't they go into another mausoleum, right? Oh, they decide because they link up. Do they link up again with Jody or whatever? Because they decide they're trying to get Mike back, right? And
Yeah,
so they're like, we need to go stay in a mausoleum because it's like they get to the town, they find the town. Remember, they're like looking for the town and they can't find it, and they finally ask and figure it out. And they're like, we should hide out at the mausoleum. And then he's like, why would we do that? And they're like, because it's the last place he would ever look for us.
yeah,
And then when they get there, they that's when isn't that when they get Mike back? Because like Jody helps them. He's like he's hiding in this crypt or whatever. Or at least I
what?
thought there was. Oh no,
What?
no, no. That's when we get the zombie fight. That's right. There's a lot
Yeah,
of mausoleums. It goes, yeah.
well, and Mike's back because remember he's the one that says, "Let's go to the mausoleum," and then she's like, and then it's Rocky that says, because and then Reggie's like, "Why would we do that?" And then Rocky's like, I think I
Oh
can't.
no, we get the desert. That's right.
That's what I was about to say. I think this is when we finally get some more of the little like creature things,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Another callback to one that we didn't get into, where the finger turns into the fly or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Um,
I'm jumping ahead again.
yeah, that's the only scene we missed. That's why it was a little weird because Mike comes back
Mhm.
in this scene because yeah, Reggie's asleep in the desert, and I feel like we did miss a scene in between, but it can't be important because uh the only reason I know we missed the scene is because they wake up and something else happens. Because when, for whatever reason, when Mike comes back, it starts with Reggie having a dream about fucking Rocky, and Mike is just, or Jody's just in the room, and he's
Yes.
like,
Was that part of the motel scene right there? I was trying to remember if how soon that happens.
no, that
Or no,
happens
that
when
was
that's when
when
they're in
they're
the
out in the desert.
desert. Yeah, because
That's
they
right.
they lay down and he has a dream, and that's when he start. You can tell he's like dreaming about fucking Rocky or
And
whatever.
and you see, oh yeah, because we get the sphere. We get the sphere with the little eyeball too. And it's like scoping them out or whatever. It's like
Yeah, we
watching
haven't
them.
mentioned that yet. Yeah, there's a sphere that goes around with an eyeball popping out. So,
Yeah.
and you see the tall man like watching it on another like almost like watching the screen of like a
Mm.
baby
It's
monitor
his
type
it's
shit.
his ring camera.
Yeah. Oh, the scene that we're missing is kind of a lame one. Remember, that's when they come across the grave robbers, and there's literally like they see these hearses like
The
driving.
car meetup. That's right.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
see these hearses driving, and they assume that it's the tall man's minions, and it's just these random dudes.
Yes, you're right. Oh yeah, because they have the gas masks.
Yeah, and
So
they
it's
just
like kind of like an extension of like, and the one guy's like, oh, I hate, what does he say? I hate grave diggers or whatever.
yeah.
Like they know about it as lore. That's right.
I
You're
wonder
right.
if
You're
they're
right.
gonna come back around in four though, because remember they were in the beginning of two. Remember when
Mhm.
Mike is digging up all those graves randomly because we talked about how like why doesn't Reggie think he's psychotic? Like, but
Yeah.
remember when he's digging up these like random cars show up and Reggie's like, let's go. If we don't leave now, like those guys will get pissed and kill you or whatever, or
So when
something
they're
like that. But
they haven't gotten Mike back, right? Is that's where they're trying to get Mike because they're
yeah,
trying to find, and that's where they get him, right?
yeah, so pretty much it shows them sleep at the hotel. They leave the next morning. They come across those guys chase. There's like a quick car chase scene, and they just
Mhm.
when they find out where they're going, they realize that they're just like literally grave robbers. So they leave there and they go set up camp at the desert. And then when they go set up camp at the desert, they have a little conversation, and then Reggie falls asleep. And when Reggie falls asleep, that's when he starts dreaming about banging Rocky. And then so you got the very awkward scene of him like rubbing on her topless body while Jody's just chilling in the corner, in the cuck chair, pretty much. But
Yeah.
no, and then
Yeah,
but that's
Reggie's not supposed to in this film because Rocky does not. She's not vibing with Reggie,
yeah.
and Reggie's like, it doesn't matter. I'm getting this scene.
Yeah. Reggie Bannister was like, "Hey Don, how can we make that work?" He's like, "Well, I do need him to visit you in a dream, you know what I mean?"
Oh my
No.
God.
But so then Jody pretty much takes him from there, and like the ball like opens up like with like this laser that opens up a portal that he like walks through with them,
Mhm.
and he gets to see, which we forgot to mention earlier on. We see like Mike do this very weird thing when he's in the coma where he like sees Jody and
Oh
like
yeah.
walks towards him, and Jody's like, "Don't go that way, Mike." And the tall man's
Oh
like
yeah.
in the white light, and it kind of makes you think like, is the tall man God? Are you God,
So
bro? But
again, this movie and all of the films don't do the best job of making the dream logic really make sense. I like
no,
that it's there, but they don't tie it in the best.
no, but stuff like that in this film, I feel like does a great job of bringing back a lot of that feeling that the second
Oh,
film
sure.
lacked, in my opinion. Um, and it's because of all that shit, the Jody stuff, and like
Hmm.
that's one thing I do like is how they brought back Jody. Like I said, I thought that he was just going to become a full-on person by like 20 minutes in, and then the fact that he's literally just kind of like this entity for most of the film, and like
Hmm.
within a sphere. Don Coscarelli did a great job because both Jody's actor and A. Michael Baldwin, who plays Mike, were out of acting for years. So to bring them back and use them
Hmm.
in a way that they didn't have to do too much with their like acting, chops, and it still worked well for their roles, I think works very well. Especially with Jody kind of being in like an afterlife thing, he can be a little stiff in his acting. So, um,
Yeah.
but no, but that's what happens there is he takes him to Mike, and then like
Hmm.
pretty much him and Mike come out of the portal, and when they come out of the portal.
That's right. Yeah.
Jody's like standing there holding the ball, and he's like, "Oh no, the tall man's controlling me. He follows
He's
you."
locked in on me.
Yeah. And then that's when they cut the hands off because he does the old. That's what I was mentioning earlier when I was
That's
like, why
right.
do they act like only Reggie can do it? He's like, put your hands up there, Reggie. You've done it before. It's like literally could have Mike just done it? Anybody? Like, but so when he does that, it chops off the hands and then they turn into these little fucking creatures, which is so awesome and definitely like full on Evil Dead and a callback to the OG,
Oh
so
yeah.
which was before Evil Dead, I guess. So
Yep. Yeah. And then you get the funny scene with Rocky and he's like, I could do it. I could take care of this by myself. I'm a man. And she stabs it. And he's like so worried he's gonna like stab her in the junk.
yeah, stabs his dick pretty much, but
Yeah. He's like,
no.
ah, he's such a baby.
That's the thing is, dude, Reggie's somewhat helpless. Without the quadruple
Oh
shotgun, he'd
yeah.
be yeah, he'd be
He
fucked.
really he really is like a Ash, but Ash does rise from the phoenix of his sorrow and everything that he's gone through and becomes a legitimate badass. Reggie is just bumbles everything.
Yeah, yeah, because by
It's
Army of Darkness, he's like already handling shit. We're 3 films in, and
yeah.
Reggie's still just being like, "Oh, thanks, guys."
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah. Power of the ponytail.
he's like, "Women, women, women." What's that quote from I can't remember the Tosh Point oh where he's like,
I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah, but no, so that's what he reminds me of the dude from Hedonism. That's like the wild women, the ripping and the tearing, the ripping and the tearing, or whatever.
Yes.
But nah, fucking. But yeah, this is when they go. That's when you get the scene that you were mentioning, where he's like,
Yeah.
"Now let's go to the mausoleum," and Rocky's like, "Why?" Because that's the only place he wouldn't expect.
Yep.
And this is pretty much the beginning of the final showdown, which again is like top notch, dude. This film, like I said,
Hmm.
this film has not let up. Like we literally couldn't think of the one scene we couldn't think of was a fucking car chase. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we get another car chase on their way to the mausoleum, and that's when the three zombies show up in that fucking pink hearse. I told my wife, I was
Sick.
like, dude, I want a hearse. I was like, I think if I
Oh
ever
yeah.
like had money in my old life and had like a project car or something I ever wanted, I think I would get a
Mm.
hearse, dude. Put a bed in the
I've
back, go to
I've thought about that, and the only annoying thing is like you don't have seats in the back. You just have a bed, like so if you need a family car, it's not the best. But
That's why I was like, I wait until Ari's old enough where it won't matter. But
hmm.
no, use it for like go up to the Mahoning, you know what I mean? Sleep in the back of the
Oh yeah.
hearse and watch
There's a
fucking.
there's a dude that around the Outer Banks here that's always ripping around in a hearse, and I'm just like, that dude's so badass. I want to be his best friend.
Yeah, oh, fuck yeah! And then we get to see Mike use the quadruple shotgun alongside the new Mike, the new and improved Mike, in my opinion. Because first of
Hmm.
all, share a name, so shout out Timmy. But also Timmy just rules, dude. The acting's better.
Yeah.
He's more of a badass. Obviously, he handled three grown adults within like a matter of seconds.
Hmm.
But no, so they're just like shooting away at these zombies, and that's when you get the car flip, which you do get the cool ass scene where like the girl like zombie reaches over
Goes
and then
under it.
yeah, she gets shot and just rolls right underneath the fucking car. Which is
Yeah.
only which would have been funnier if when she showed up later she had like a big ass tire mark through her face or some shit.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would have been so perfect.
But they and probably something that if somebody would have mentioned it, I'm sure Don Coscarelli would have been like, "Fuck yeah," because he loves like little jokes, like because
Hmm.
that's another thing about this is this movie's coated with humor, but it feels authentic. It's never like it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like a horror comedy. It feels like a horror movie that's funny. You know what I mean? So or an
Yep.
action horror movie that's like I feel like action is definitely like higher up on the subgenres than comedy is with alongside horror and stuff, but and even sci-fi, um. But that's when you get this hearse flip. And shout out to stuntman Bob Ivy. A. Michael Baldwin mentioned this in the documentary In Search of Darkness, the 1990s one that
Hmm.
they did. And Bob Ivy like was the stuntman that did this flip, and he said he thinks that it broke the world record for most flips in a like car
Oh
flip
shit.
because that thing
That's
flips
cool.
like 6 or 7 times. He said that when homie got out of the car, he was alive and he lived through it and stuff, but he had like blood coming out of his ears and shit, and like it was rough on him. But
Damn.
so yeah, shout out Stuntman Bob Ivy. It was a killer thing. I was like, holy shit, dude, that was a fucking badass like flip. They ruined that sexy pink hearse. I was like, damn, that thing was
Mm,
beautiful.
that was cool.
But no, and then of course that's when they go into the mausoleum, which you think
Hmm.
that's the last of the zombie people, but they show up in the climax too. So it's
Yeah.
like,
I like their setup, their like hangout too. You get like a good like pause from all the action to have some dialogue and some additional lore because freaking Mike goes super weirdo, just takes a nap on the slab with
yeah,
the ball balanced on his head while he's in his little zen moment learning about more about the tall man. Uh Rocky and Tim share some beans, uh heated by the the incinerator of
yeah.
the crematorium, which is the funniest thing ever. And I love that they're just eating beans. It's like the most like this movie's for boys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for all the females that want to like this movie more. But yeah, just like what's more like manly, just eating beans with a switchblade heated up from fire. It's like it reminds me of the scene in Dennis the Menace where the homeless guy's just like eating beans with a knife.
Mhm. Yeah, that's exactly what it made me think of. I was like, is Christopher Lloyd and Dennis the Menace, which was terrifying as a child, in my opinion. But
Absolutely terrifying.
yeah, but I will say that I was listening to Pod and the Pendulum, and it's three guys, a guy and two girls, and they loved the Phantasm films. They're having a blast with them, and I can definitely see that. Like when we say that, it's kind of not really a knock into say, like it's not really it's kind of like we say that as in jest. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we know
totally.
that there's women that definitely love these films. But it's just we could tell that when Don Coscarelli was making these films, he was like in his mind, he was like, "That's some badass man shit right there." Like,
Dude stuff. We got
yeah,
lots of dude stuff.
yeah, and it was just uh, like from the car to the quadruple shotgun to uh every like I said up until Rocky, almost every woman being there just for like Reggie to hit
Hmm.
on, and even Rocky, we still had to have her naked for 2 seconds, fucking for no
Yeah.
reason, but just for a dream scene. But no, I do agree. I do like all this when they finally. It's like again one of those scenes where we get that last little bit of like the group hanging out before shit hits the fan, and uh one thing I really enjoy about it is I do like the scene that we get between them two, but this is where we finally get like it truly locked in when Mike goes under of what the tall man's doing with like these
Yep.
brains, and that's when you see that the brain is getting put inside the spheres, which makes it all make a lot more sense and stuff like that, in my opinion. And
Yep.
to me, by the time we leave this film, I don't have many questions, if that makes sense. Like, there's still some
Sure.
lore that I'm like, like, of course, like, what exactly is the tall man? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a scene at the very beginning of this film we didn't mention. You see the tall man
Oh
die
yeah.
at the end of Phantasm 2, and then you see him literally just come right back out like untouched. So like, is he respawning? Is there like an army of tall men? Is it not just one
Hmm.
tall man? Is it tall men? We got it wrong this whole
Mm.
time. No, I'm just kidding. it's 10,000 Fists in the Air by fucking Disturbed starts playing and Ravager. I know what's up, but nah, I think it's a cover by Genesis anyway. So let's play the Genesis
Oh,
version.
funny.
So, but no, so it's just one of those things that like there's questions I still have, but I just mean as far
Hmm.
as like if this was the conclusion of the film, other than like obviously what
Sure.
happens with like Timmy, uh, I'm fine. Like I'm fine with the information that we have by the end of this film. I feel like there's nothing that I'm
Mhm.
like, oh man, but like they left this open and it makes no sense. It's like it makes enough
Well, yeah,
sense.
because yeah, they give you a loose understanding of the tall man and his purpose, and like he's going to planet, for total domination. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you don't really need more information
Yeah,
about that. He's power hungry.
yeah. He's like a
But yeah,
Bigfoot, an interdimensional being. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
That's what some people say. Bigfoot's. I don't know if you've heard that theory, but
Oh no, I have not heard this theory.
yeah, that's a theory. Is that Bigfoot
What?
is interdimensional, and that's why like we don't see them like that. You know what I mean? Because they can
Interesting.
travel between dimensions and stuff. I'm not
Hmm.
saying I'm a
I like
proprietor of
it.
that theory, but I've heard it, and I've heard it a few times. But nah, but and that's when this whole like climax kind of like starts going down. The zombies just show back up, and which I did not
Hmm.
expect. Which I guess is a way to have. I mean, it's kind of a smart thing to do because you have three actors and one makeup job, and then
Yeah.
uh, you know, one makeup job per actor, obviously, and then you can, if you keep bringing them back, you have three scenes that you could play out with them. Once as their normal, once as zombies is the first time, and zombies for
Hmm.
the final time, and it works out in a way that helps the budget. It's still fun and it makes sense because it's like there's zombies. Oh, you got to really get rid
Hmm.
of them to get rid of them, type shit. So, goddamn, I said type shit. You got to really get rid of them, type of thing again. And so I don't know, I loved that thought of like, okay, what can we do this time that like we
Yeah.
can genuinely just keep bringing them back, and the way they're finally disposed of is so fucking awesome, man. Like the gold sphere finally pops out, which, oh,
Mm.
I forgot that we before the zombies show up, the tall man gets dealt with.
Yeah.
They get their Scooby Gang plan and it actually works, but unfortunately it's just you
Because he
can't,
doesn't like the cold.
yeah, you can't foil the tall man. Yeah, because this is when we see all the cryogenic chambers and
Hmm.
see that he's doing stuff with that, and that's how they kind of get a vision that he doesn't. I think that's when Mike, when he goes back and sees that other vision, he's the one that notices that he doesn't like the cold, if I'm not mistaken,
Is
or was
that
it?
before or after Reggie gets his second bit of action from the zombie?
I don't remember.
Remember? Because he's napping. He's napping on the other mausoleum, and he's got like a blankie over him, and he's like, "Ooh," like it starts moving around, like
Oh
he's
yeah, yeah.
he's
No,
getting blown.
that's got to be before, because remember, the gold ball is what takes care of her, and
Oh yeah,
the gold
you're right.
ball
You're right.
comes out of the tall man. That's the only
Yep.
reason I was like, that's what made me set back before, because I was like thinking of how they got dismantled, and I was like, well, actually, the gold ball takes care of
You're
her,
right.
but it's got to come from
Yeah.
the tall man.
So I
So
think I think that's all happening because all of that happens while Mike is asleep and he's traveling with Jody. So
yeah,
then they have the zombie fight and they, are dealing with all of that and they get back to Jody and then Jody's like trapped because the tall man, he can't leave the dimension because he gets transfixed on wanting to learn more.
yeah,
And yeah, and then they attack the tall man.
yeah. They push it. They like spike him into the back of the cooler, and he which they like freeze, which is kind of cool because they kind of like pre-freeze it with the
Mhm.
cryogenic chamber, so that way when they spike them, they know it'll hurt them because of the
Yeah.
cold. Uh, Even worse, and so then they spike him into that freezer pretty much and freeze him to death, and then his face explodes and the fucking gold sphere flies out of it. And that part is so cool
Choo.
too because again, it comes through the window, and again, it doesn't feel like a cheap like breakaway window. It feels like a
Nope.
legit window for a door, freezer door. So, no, that was awesome. And then but yeah, at that point, that's when I think when they get them locked up, they like are kind of like pre-celebrating a little, like prematurely celebrating by just
Mhm.
relaxing. That's when Reggie's taking the nap on that like one the casket or whatever, and uh, or over by the mausoleum, and
Mhm.
uh, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I think they're done with the beans part. Is that
No,
what?
so I think isn't it that they get attacked by the zombies and then they dispatch them, but then they kind of come back again. It's like how you kind of realize like, oh, the zombies can continue to like, even though they kill him once, because they fight, and she has her whole nunchuck fight with the chick, because he gets attacked, and then all of a sudden you hear it's like this silly scene where you just hear them go, "What was that?" You know, because you hear Reggie go, "Ah!" You know, so they
Yeah.
come and save Reggie. And so she has her nunchuck fight with the chick and ends up pushing her over the edge of the like balcony thing. Um, and then the kid ends up fighting with the zombie guys as well.
I don't remember. I feel like I remember now that you mentioned that, I do remember them getting pushed over the balcony. So I feel like they
Mhm.
do fight again.
So
Or is that
I think they fight, and then the tall man gets introduced because they're like, oh, whoa, we got them, and then they have to fight the tall man, and then they think everything is good for a minute, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's all blurring together in my brain.
what we're getting confused by is the fight they're happening simultaneously is kind of what's happening.
Okay,
So
so it okay.
that's why we're confused because it does happen kind of simultaneously. So Reggie is sleeping and the girl shows up and they start fighting them all and this and that. And the whole time we're going back and forth between them fighting the zombies and Mike is in there talking to Jody and stuff like that.
In
And as
his
and
dream walk, yeah.
yeah, and he's learned that's when we learn about the brains and this and that. And then so what happens from there is Mike wakes up and that's when the two zombie guys are bringing Tim in on a slab and Mike tells him about like the thousands of balls and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that's when they finally, as they're all fighting, uh, something happens where the zombies get they go away. They're not like gone, but they're just not in the
Mhm.
room. And that's when they dispatch of the tall man with the gold with the thing. But then the spear flies out as they're still fighting the zombies and stuff like that. And yeah, Rocky's fighting the female zombie, and she like throws her up, and the spear just fucking puts a hole clean through her skull. It's fucking awesome.
Very death becomes her. Just
Yeah.
like
But we get like back to back spear kills and they're both unique. You get the one straight through, and then the one
Mhm.
guy like goes into his face, and instead of like just drilling through because he's a zombie, it
Oh
like
yeah.
spins until his head completely just flies the
Yeah,
fuck
that's
off.
another sick scene with Timmy because he's like, suck on this, and like smashes the ball into his head.
Yeah. No, that's and that's one thing about this climax is that like even though we're kind of confused about it, it's because the climax is so big and long. It's not like
Mhm.
that's what I love about a climax though is when it feels like holy shit, like this is the ante's just ramping up now. Like
Mhm.
and it happens for like 10 or 15 minutes because like for instance, we just rewatched The Toxic Avenger not so long ago, and that was my only complaint was that I felt like the climax was like in 5 minutes and it was over with and it didn't
Mhm.
really ramp up. It was just kind of like oh, they hate Toxie all of a sudden, and then he kills the mayor, and they don't hate him again. And it's like,
Mhm.
I love the film. It's still a great film and a classic, and I can watch it all the time. But like, this is the kind of climax I want. That's like almost action packed, and especially in these types of film. You know what I mean? Like, same thing with like the go back to like a kind of a recent film and a completely different thing that does it in a completely different way, but does it brilliantly, in my opinion. The Conjuring. At the
Mhm.
end when it does that whole that's when the mother gets possessed and you got to watch you got to see her like almost take her own kid's life. Like I feel like that ramps up for like a good 10 or 15 minutes and the tension just keeps
Yeah.
going up and up and up, and it is almost like an action packed horror moment, and this is like the same thing where it gets very action packed. So and then of course you get Reggie shooting the dude off screen, which is a little bit of a bummer, but at least the
Yeah.
quadruple barrel shotgun's brought back in for another play. But
Yeah, and then they get back to save Mike just in time. That was the other part that I thought was interesting because you see uh Mike is bleeding yellow blood.
yeah, he like falls over and he's like holding his head because he got cut in the
Mhm.
fight. And
Well, he's drilling the tall man before
oh yeah, it was
before
drilling yeah.
yeah, before they save Mike and tall man bursts his sphere. Uh, he's drilling he has that tool again to extract his brain. Um, And yeah, and then we get another scene later where Mike is like examining he's all freaked out because his hand is yellow from yellow blood, and he's like, "What the hell?" You
Was
know?
did you notice his head was also flapping open and the sphere was
Yeah,
just
yeah. He
yeah.
pulls it open. He's like, "Oh," and it's like metal, and he's like, "Oh no!"
And that's what I think. is like the switch up in this because Mike has gone, between all the times he's been taken by the tall man, it makes sense that he could have got the spear in there, but Mike is still
Yeah.
too strong for him to control him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what happened is he's taken Mike before, got the gold spear in there, but can't figure out how to break through and control Mike like he has other people.
Mm.
And now at the end of this film, that's why he switches it out for a gold sphere, and that's why Mike, when he leaves, he's like dazed and finally kind of taken over by the tall man, in my opinion, because when he's got the golden eyes and
Mhm.
uh and so that's one thing I really like about it too is the lore of that. It makes me feel like there is a strongerness to that golden sphere, but not everybody can withstand it, or it's not uh
Mhm.
available all the time. You know what I mean? So
Oh, another thing I want to point out, when we have the tall man gold spheres fight and it pops out the like side blades,
oh yeah,
um, and they're all like he oh, okay. More importantly, Reggie captures it with a plunger.
yeah.
So dumb. Captures it, and then so it's stuck because a plunger's sticky, suction. These balls that can smash through walls and doors can't
And
can't
bone.
separate. Yeah, can't separate from a plunger's suction, which is hilarious. And then the three of them are all look, and it made me think like, oh shoot, like that scene is just a prop that they have to act like it is forcing them to fly around, and thinking about like how funny that must have had to be to like do that scene, the three of
Yeah.
them. So good. I love it. It's so bad, but so good.
Yeah. No, and I love the scene when they come back in and they think that they've kind of won it and that everything's over, and then they open up the freezer and see the two
Oh yeah.
like
The
tuner
heads.
key things.
Yeah, there's like the heads, the cryogenic freezer are frozen over, and they're like, oh no, like it escaped.
Yeah. That's where we get like the tail. Well, we don't get the tail ending there because we get a scene for a second where they go out and Rocky leaves, and Rocky's
Mm-mm.
like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm gonna head out. And
I
pretty much
love I love how she Reggie requests a hug and she begrudgingly hugs him. And then like she's totally sees eye to eye with Timmy. She's just like, yeah,
yeah.
like fist bumps of it's funny.
Right. I want a side movie of Timmy and fucking Rocky, dude. Even if they have to
They're the real heroes of this film.
right. That's what they need to do is how they do these films like Saw X where they go in between. They
Mhm.
needed to just find a really good kid to play Timmy and like see if the lady that played Rocky has a daughter or something and just like
There you go.
fucking do like a Phantasm spin-off movie like Phantasm the Timmy tapes. No, they but no, so but we get that scene, and then that's when they go back in, and we get the final scene of the movie, which they did a lot better with the one liner at the end of this
Yeah.
one, in my opinion. And then Timmy gets sucked through, which fucking, in my opinion, at this point, I'm like way more butthurt about Timmy getting taken than Mike,
Yeah.
dude. Timmy's badass. I'm like, no, and
Yeah.
not my boy Timmy. But what was the one liner he said? Like, shit, I can't even remember.
He says something like it'll never end, boy. Doesn't he say something like that? It's never gonna end.
Yeah, I
Uh
think it is like it's Reggie says, "Get out of here, it's all over," and the tall man says, "It's never over," and he grabs Timmy and pulls him out.
Run, damn it! It's all over.
It's never over.
But
that's
it's
right.
that's when we get the scene where Timmy like comes out of the freezer and you see like Reggie kind of like in the window and you're like, and then as he shuts the door, you see Reggie's like pinned up by all the balls
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah, because it ends in a way that it's like, oh dang, that doesn't look good for them for
yeah.
sure.
Which is one thing I love about these films is that they're willing to like end on a cliffhanger in a way
Mhm.
that like if the franchise didn't come back, like you'd be
Yeah.
fucking left. But like I said, I'd be happy with this conclusion just because then it's like, damn. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be happy with this conclusion. I would want a sequel. But if I saw this film knowing that there's like not another film made yet, like if I saw this back in '94, I would be
Mhm.
happy with it. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like, fuck yeah, dude. I hope they get it back. I hope they get around to saving Timmy in the future, But I'd be just like stoked on everything we got in this film. But now, hell yeah. Any other comments or anything we missed that you want to chat about before we just dive into rating it and wrapping up?
No. I mean, I think as obviously this is going to be edited some, so you won't hear some of the gaps where we were trying to remember the exact order of things. Um, but I will say, and this is probably my only real like critique for this film and any of the films is yes, the editing has gotten better. It's gotten a bit like I think Coscarelli knows what he's trying to do, but you do still it's sometimes it's hard to follow the storyline when the storyline is a premise of like set scenes that are like, oh, what is this setup? How do we get there? What is this setup? So it's just like a bunch of setups strung together, and
Yeah,
then how do we sprinkle in the story? So then it's easier to like, oh shoot, when was that part? And, because it's not like the storyline isn't told chronologically for like scene purposes, I guess if that makes sense. But yeah,
yeah.
um,
No, and there's a lot of repetitive like moments, so it kind of makes it to where it's like, well, did this moment happen before this one? Because it's like,
which mausoleum was it that this happened in? There's
yeah,
a lot of small towns and a lot of mausoleums that they explore, and they kind of blend together a little
yeah,
bit.
and not
But
repetitive in a boring way, but just repetitive
mm-mm.
in like because like you said, it's like they're going from mausoleum to mausoleum, or they're fighting
Oh
the
yeah,
same zombies and stuff, this and
we'd be
that.
having
So
the same discussion talking about Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street and which boiler room was it or which camp scene was it? It just
yeah,
kind of at this point it all kind of like is, especially when we're watching it back to back to back, it kind of all blares together.
yeah, that
So.
too. But no, hell yeah, what would you rate this out of 10?
Oh man, I'm trying to remember what my rating was for two. Did I rate two as a 6.5 or a seven?
Yeah,
I would give this one a firm 7 or 7.5.
okay,
I like this one better than two. I think this one does I, and maybe it's because it was like a lower budget and Coscarelli probably had more say in how he wanted this one to be done. I feel like this one takes two. You don't get some of the big like budgety like scenes and sets and explosions as you would, but it's not far off from it. It doesn't like this doesn't look bad. It's not like glaringly more budget friendly, but I feel like you got rid of like some of the fluff from the second one. Like I thought the telekinetic scenes were cheesy.
yeah,
I think they tried too hard to make like Liz and Mike's character like kind of like more important in their chemistry. And to me, that didn't really need to happen. And I feel like this movie cuts way more to the chase and just sticks to like the formula of what makes this franchise rad.
yeah,
So I like it better because of that. I don't need all the exposition from the second one, just because they're like, oh yeah, let's, do
yeah.
this. But yeah, that's my thoughts. So
Oh yeah. Now I would give this honestly, I'm gonna give this an 8.5, the same exact thing I gave the first film. This is one of those that this is probably my favorite in the franchise, and I don't think it's a better film than the first one, but I think it takes a lot of
mhm,
stuff from the second one that was great and mixes it with a lot of the stuff from the first one that was great. Like we talk about
sure.
uh how they should remake these films, like they should consider remaking these films because they're like ripe for a good remake. Um I think if they ever did remake these films, a good way to do it would be to blend one with three. You know what I mean? Like just have a little bit of the stuff from one
Yeah.
lead into Mike being like taken, and then like uh, and then jump into kind of the plane of three of like Reggie chasing down Mike with like a Rocky and a Tim type character.
Mhm.
They don't have to necessarily be those
Yeah.
names or even a Reggie, but just like have it more of like a road trip film than the first film where they're kind of stuck in a town just kind of investigating this mystery and stuff. But no, I and you can kind of jump immediately into some of the
Mhm.
fun stuff with the spheres and the kills and like up those
Oh
if,
yeah.
if you go into that territory. But no, between the characters, the bringing back the original Mike as well as Jody,
Mhm.
and the way that they're used, to the way the practical effects are used, and the way that they kind of bring back the dreamlike atmosphere, like heavily in this, in my opinion, with all the Jody stuff, and
Mhm.
just like even like the weird random moments with the tall man and Mike, and no, and it expands the lore in a way that makes so much sense and like definitely feels uh like that. And I think it's one of those things that it's because it benefits from Don Coscarelli, like
Mhm.
continuously being able to take care of this. So it's somebody that like has been sitting on the franchise and thinking about it. And these films
Totally.
aren't rushed either. They're not like coming out the next year. Like this was like you said, a 6 year gap. So no, it's this to me is one of my top five favorite horror films of the '90s. For sure, which
Heck
I mean
yeah.
the '90s isn't that strong anyways, but like Scream is one of my favorites. Well, is my favorite of all time. So that's
Mhm.
already in the top five. So that already knocks off one spot and stuff. So no, I adore this film. It's like I said, it's probably my favorite in the franchise. I don't remember four or if I even truly
Mhm.
I think I watched it, but I've also heard a lot of people call it the worst in the franchise. So maybe that's why I don't remember watching it.
I
Uh,
definitely watched it. I don't remember it. That's funny. So we're kind of in the same boat.
you know. So I mean, I doubt
So
I'll like any of them more than this one, but no,
yeah.
this is exactly what I want in a Phantasm film. You get just enough. You get Reggie
Mhm.
kind of being the forefront, just being this goofy ass character, but he's never truly, like you said, he doesn't become the
Sure.
Ash because he kind of. I mean, let's be honest, he's a little bit like a lot older than Ash too, so it kind of makes sense that he's like if you're not going to become that, you're never going to become that at that age type shit. And God damn that
He
city.
does have a he does have a I'm getting too old for this shit line in the movie, which is funny.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like he's kind of like they the line you can't teach an old dog new tricks or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like one of those things. It's like it makes sense that Ash would finally buck up and get the shit done because when he started dealing with it, he was like barely 18.
Yeah.
And so, but like Reggie was already fucking like dealing with like phone calls from the AARP and shit. So no,
Mhm.
I love this film. I think it's a blast. This is one that I feel like if somebody watched Phantasm 1 and was like uh said they enjoyed it and then watched two and said they hated it, I would be like, you need to watch three still because it's
Yeah.
like so much fucking fun. And like I said, it kicks off immediately with Liz getting dusted and then the quadruple barrel shotgun taking out multiple like from a head
Mhm.
blast to the ones in the tree like duck hunting the ones in the trees pretty much. And then like the Timmy scene onto the Rocky introduction. Like this
Yeah.
movie doesn't let up. And the few times that it does, it's like you're left in these moments with characters that are absolutely adorable and not
Yeah.
adorable in the way of like cute, but adorable in like it's so easy to love them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
they're super compelling for
yeah.
sure.
And so, no, I enjoy this film so much. And this is one that honestly, I'm fine having the collection box or whatever. But if they ever like did a full like single disc release again, I would probably purchase like a 4K of three because
Mhm.
the box that I have is just Blu-ray, you know.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to get the whole new set, but I would definitely buy like an upgrade of three and maybe even
Yeah.
with like upgraded features and stuff. But no,
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this is definitely the Dream Warriors of this franchise. Like,
yeah.
there's tons of people that will say Dream Warriors is their favorite nightmare film over the original, but also under the caveat of like, but you also can't like, you can't fully separate from the original because that's how it all comes together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
No, exactly. That's why I gave it the exact rating. I thought about honestly giving it a nine, but I felt like,
dang.
but I was as I was thinking about it, I was like, there's still just something about like when been a gap in between watching. That's another thing is I watched the first Phantasm so many more times, and still when I watch it for like the first time in like 3 or 4 months,
Mhm.
it's like I'm immediately like enthralled by it again. And like this is a film that this was literally like my third time watching this. So,
Sure.
um. But now that I recognize how much I love this, and like now that I've rewatched two again and have that memory more of two, because that was only my second time
Mhm.
completely watching through two. I watched through it like I tried to watch it one other time and fell asleep. So it wasn't like it was like my third time like watching it, but I didn't get a full second watch the
Sure.
time I watched it. But this is one that because three is always streaming places, it might be my go-to throw on one because for the longest time one was my go-to throw on one.
Mhm.
But this one doesn't have boobies until like an hour in, and they're only for like 2 minutes, so I don't got to worry about the kid as much. So the first
Sure.
movie opens up with boobies, so you
Yep.
can't really you're like what? Couldn't even get a snack. But
Yep.
but no, I just love this film. I could
Yeah.
keep sitting here talking about stuff I like about it, but
So we talked about in the remakeability of Phantasm, and I think we threw around a couple of directors for that. I was thinking about that same conversation and like, okay, well, who would direct this third one if it was remade? Uh, do you have anybody that you think would do well with this one? I have a director in mind.
honestly, if they went like this kind of tone with it, I think Radio Silence could do pretty good with it.
Oh, okay, I could see that. I was gonna say Mr. Gunn could do this movie.
Hell yeah.
I was thinking about like how well Slither was done and handling like the horror and the cosmic stuff, but then also like making it really fun and action packed. Like I don't know, I think if he went with like that approach, the way Slither was done, like this movie would rule. Um,
Yeah. No, and I was going off of with Radio Silence. The Scream movie was okay, but I was
yeah.
mostly going off of Scream movies. I guess they did six too, which I did
Mm,
not like six. That was not okay in my
mm.
opinion. But that's but to each his own. If you like it, cool. But
Sure.
I was mostly going off of Abigail and Ready or Not, which are
Mm.
like almost
Oh yeah,
just as
totally.
much action, if not more action than horror. And that's why I was thinking like they'd be good for it because they could do the horror part with blood
Hmm.
everywhere, but they could still do the action part very fun. And they do the one thing that they did do right with the Scream, at least with Scream 5, was they did a good job of paying like homage to the lore and stuff from the
Sure.
original. So I could see where maybe if they were given Phantasm, as long as they gave the IP the
Mm.
true love. But I think James Gunn would be a better choice and could definitely knock this one out of the park. Or
I mean,
uh,
both suggestions are pretty like for like as far as style goes, you know.
you know,
So I think you're right. We're on the right. I think we're on the wavelength.
Yeah. Or of course, I'd love to see somebody that I know is like a diehard fan of this shit, like
Mm,
Joe Lynch, you know what I mean? Like he's done
sure.
Mayhem, which is an absolute blast of an action horror film, and
Hmm.
he loves Phantasm. We wouldn't do anything that would probably piss
Yeah.
off diehard fans. So but no, hell yeah. But no, man, it's been a blast chatting with you once again, and we'll be back at it in 2 weeks with Phantasm 4. Of course, like I said, I got the episode in between with Adam Hustler, Power Play, and Getting the Van booking. But
Hmm.
until next time we get together, man. Of course, if anybody's listening, make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, leave a rating. Let us know what you think of Phantasm 3. Is it your favorite in the franchise? Is it your least favorite in the
Hmm.
franchise? And are you excited to get into 4 and 5? But
Yeah.
oh yeah, man.
Heck yeah, dude. And then once this is all done, we can start a ska band called Tall Man and His Boys.
Hey, Reggie already has a band called Reggie and the Bannisters. So
Uh, you mean it's not Reggie in the full effect?
no, the dinosaur is him, but but no, yeah, he's got Reggie and the Bannisters. So I might have to learn some of those songs on guitar, man. Sitting
Sick.
here. But but hell yeah, man, it was a blast chatting with you once again, and I can't wait to get back into Phantasm. Once we get through these 5 films, it'll be fun to get back into some other stuff too. But I'm having a
Yeah.
blast watching through these. So
Yeah, for sure. And if for some reason, like if I'll throw this out there, if we do four and we're both like, uh, this was rough, and we want to do like a combined four and five, if we feel like we need to make an abridged episode on four, maybe we talk about that. But until further review, I suppose.
that works for me. Yeah, we'll look into that. If it doesn't hold as much like memorable moments or definitely is like a
Yeah,
harder get through, then we can definitely think about that. Even if it ends up being a slightly longer episode, but
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it makes it easier than 2 episodes, then yeah, we'll definitely look into
Yeah,
that.
I just had that thought when we both said like we can't even remember a single plot point from four. And I
Yeah.
know I've watched it and I'm just like, dang, was it that bad? Did I fall asleep the whole time? Could have very well happened.
Yeah.
So,
No, and that's what makes
yeah.
me most excited to do this rewatch is because we're covering them for the show. I'm giving them like the extra attention. So
100%. Yeah.
like hopefully my memory of the franchise will just be better in general going forward. Like if somebody wants to chat about it, it's not like, oh yeah, that was like because even like I said,
Mhm.
I knew the one with Rocky and Tim was my favorite, but for whatever reason, I kept thinking it was two and not three.
Yeah.
So, but no, hell yeah, well, I appreciate you,
Good
man.
deal. Yeah, brother. I will talk to you on the next one.
Hell yeah.